Welcome to the Expert Opinion. I'm Angelo.
And I'm Roman.
Let's get right into it. Starting off, we're going to start off with the Super Bowl. I'm going to jump right to you, Roman. What do you think are the Patriots' keys to success in this one?
The Patriots' keys to success are really going to be to utilize the passing game. You got guys like Tom Brady, and you got good receivers, as well as a very solid receiving back in Sony Michel. The Patriots can utilize the passing game to the fullest extent. I think that's going to be very important.
I like what you said about using receiving backs. Sony Michel isn't their receiving back. I'd say James White is more their receiving back.
Well, but they both are able to catch passes out of the backfield pretty efficiently.
Looking at stat wise, New England offensively rushing the ball only averaged 4.3 yards per carry throughout the season, but they were the fifth in the NFL in rushing. Do you think that's because they were blowing out teams and were able to use the rushing game? Or do you think
yes, they were.
effective?
They actually are in a pretty weak division in the AFC East with teams like the Bills and the Jets and the Dolphins. So they were able to utilize the running game in more of garbage time sense, which probably helped boost their stats.
Looking at the Rams' defense, they gave up 5.1 yards per carry throughout the season. Do you think that's a weakness?
I think really the weakness does lie in their linebackers. Obviously, like they do have a great D-line, but when you have efficient blockers, then it's going to come down to the linebackers to make those tackles, and sometimes the linebackers just can't make those plays.
Okay. Another thing that we'd like to look at here is New England's passing offense. They completed 65.9% of their passes, while the Rams gave up 65.1%, which is a lot higher than most would think. As they have all-star corners, a solid pass rush. Mm-hmm. So how does that translate over to, giving up 65% completion?
Like I said, it really does come down to their linebackers. That's really the main weakness of the Rams' defense, and that's why the passing game is going to be so important, because the linebackers are utilized a lot in the passing game in sort of mid-zones and some man coverage.
Well, you say the linebackers are a weakness, but how do you think Corey Littleton's play is transferred over?
I think his play has been solid, but obviously there are multiple linebackers there. I'm pretty sure most teams use at least 3 linebackers in most of their formations.
I believe the Rams run the 4-3.
And obviously you're going to need more than one linebacker. Like, you can have one good linebacker, but the other 2 linebackers aren't going to be efficient just because you have one guy. It's more of like a team effort.
Well, how do you think the addition of Dante Fowler Jr. has do you think that has helped them or weakened them defensively then?
I think it has helped them just a little bit, but obviously one player that isn't exactly like all-pro defensive player of the year is going to make too much of an impact on a team like that who came into the season with a solid defense.
Okay, another thing I'd like to look at would be again, the Rams' defense, their passing defense, even though they've given up 65%, they have given up 31 touchdowns defensively, but 18 interceptions, which is definitely top of the league, up there, top of the league. So do you think they use that bend but don't break strategy, allow people to drive down but then get interceptions?
Yeah, I think they do. The Rams do have a very good red zone defense, as we saw in the NFC Championship game. And obviously their secondary with their corners and their safeties, they're very efficient at getting interceptions of some of the weaker quarterbacks. But when you're facing an all-caliber player like Tom Brady, it's going to be a lot harder to get, first of all, pressure on him with the Patriots O-line, as well as force him to throw interceptions, which Tom Brady doesn't do that often.
That's a great point to bring up. The offensive line. The Rams had 41 sacks throughout the season, which is an understatement to say impressive, but the Patriots only gave up 21 sacks. So do you think there's a true winner in the offensive line versus defensive line battle? Or do you think one side is going to come out here?
I think it's very interesting to notice, but obviously it does come down to the teams that they do have to play. Like obviously I said, the Patriots, they are in a weak division, but a division like the NFC West is a little bit stronger. You got the Seahawks with one of the top defenses. Even weaker teams like the 49ers, they can get some pressure in there. The Cardinals not so much, but obviously it comes down to the teams
Didn't
that
the
they
Cardinals have one of the top sack leaders.
Didn't they? What was it like? She was like Darnell Dockett, I think, or did he retire? I'm not sure. But obviously, like the Cardinals were not able to perform very well this year at all, really in any aspect of the game.
I'd have to say that I think Patriots' offensive line, I think they might be able to hold up in this one. I mean, I know they've lost key pieces of their O-line throughout the years, but I think Tom Brady's expertise, awareness, I think he'll be able to get the ball out quickly to his wide receivers. I think what they're going to need to do is utilize the running backs out of the backfield a lot, especially James White. But what they're going to want to do is get away from Corey Littleton the most, because he's their most, I would say, like, flexible linebacker who can cover the running backs out of the backfield. So I think what they're going to want to do is split out maybe James White one way, see if Littleton stays on him, maybe bring him in motion other ways, see if he stays on him. You can tell if they're a man defense right away from that. Or if they're in zone, utilize that quick passing game, go along, mix up what they want to do. I think motion offense is going to need to be used by the Patriots here. And I'd like to jump right into what the Rams need to do for success here.
Obviously, the Rams have one of the best offenses that we've seen. But obviously, the Rams, in these recent games in the playoffs, they have utilized the running game extremely well. And I think that if the Rams can utilize their two running backs, Todd Gurley and C.J. Anderson, I think that if they utilize them perfectly, catching passes out of the backfield, running up the middle, catching pitches, and even like blocking when receivers are going on routes, I think that the Rams are going to need to utilize their running backs to the best of their ability, and I think that is going to be one of their main keys to success.
I would say that the Rams, what I would say for keys to success here are no mistakes. We've seen that mistakes have really killed them, right? Last week, that interception early, they were able to kind of reverse that mistake as their defense only held the Saints to a field goal on that interception. But I think mistakes are really what hurts that team. Interceptions, like against the Bears, we've seen that. Jared Goff making mistakes is really the main part of that downfall, I'd say, which is weird to say because Jared Goff has kind of had almost a breakout season, you could say. I mean, last year was kind of his coming out season. This year, again, keeping it going. But how does Todd Gurley come in as a factor? Because last week we saw C.J. Anderson being the main workhorse and Todd Gurley riding the bench. Does that continue?
I don't think so. I think they're going to use both running backs efficiently like they did in the divisional round. I believe it was against the Cowboys. And obviously, they have both running backs, but Todd Gurley, he has been getting, obviously, some rest in those games. He's got a lot of time. He's going to come fully prepared 100%. He's going to go at it. He's going to want to go for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's what he wants to do. Obviously, he's one of the best players on the Rams, and he's been in the running for MVP this entire season. I think that, obviously, he wants to win that Cira Bowl probably more than anyone else that's going to be on that field.
Definitely, and it's weird to say. C.J. Anderson earlier said that he believes he's one of the best running backs because he's one of the freshest running backs. He was picked up in December by the Rams, hadn't played much throughout the season, bounced around the league. So I think looking at it now, how does that change? Because Todd Gurley riding the bench, getting more bench time while C.J. Anderson carries the workload here. Now, I think it's more Todd Gurley that is more fresh than C.J. Anderson, and I think if the Rams want to win, Todd Gurley's going to have to be the main guy here.
All right, I would agree, but I think one of the main keys for success to both teams on that field is going to be don't be intimidated. Obviously, the Rams, they're a newer team, they're a younger team, they're going against a longtime juggernaut in the New England Patriots. But what they got to do is they got to come with full confidence. Obviously, you got a young coach in Sean McVay, you got a young quarterback, a young running back. But they got to come in with full confidence that they can win that game. And I do believe that if the Rams do show up with the confidence that they can win that game, they can win that game. But also, it's another thing for the Patriots. They're going up against one of the hottest offenses in the NFL, and with a very solid defense. It's a tough team. But the Patriots have been there, so I don't think that they will be intimidated. I think it's going to come down to, are the Rams going to be up for that challenge themselves?
Well, let's answer that question right now as we get into who we think is going to win and why. You can start.
I would like to give to you guys. Obviously, this is going to be probably a close game. We have seen these two teams face off. I believe it was in 2002 in that Super Bowl. I think it's going to be pretty similar to that. It's going to be a pretty close game between those two teams, and it's going to come down to some very important key factors.
I would say I would have to choose the Patriots in this one until I see the Rams become a concrete, consistent team. They didn't show that in December, only grabbing, one win throughout that entire month. That was a dismal month for them. Tom Brady, you got to go with the guy who has just year after year showed up. And I don't really think the Rams should be in this game because of last week, what happened to the Saints.
And that's a whole other issue, but I would agree the Saints honestly should be there. And I would have to agree with you. I think, obviously, one of the keys is the Rams. I said they don't be intimidated, but this is their first time in the Super Bowl for pretty much all the guys on their roster, all right? They're going up against a complete juggernaut, a team that has been there. They've done that 5 times in this century, and I do think they're going to be just a little too nervous, and the Patriots are going to use that to their advantage, and I think they're going to pull out the win.
It's definitely going to be one to watch. Quickly, I'd like to touch up on the NBA's Game of the Week.
Yeah, obviously the Game of the Week is Bucks-Raptors. That is happening Thursday at 7 o'clock Central. I think that's going to be another very good game. But I do think that this is going to be another instance where the Bucks show up in the clutch. The Bucks can close games. I think we've seen a lot of times that Giannis, he can close games, as well as the rest of the team has been able to close games this entire season. And I think that's what they're going to end up doing in Toronto once again.
I'm going to have to choose the Bucks with this one too because as stats show, the Bucks shoot 42% on threes, and I think Toronto shooting 37%, which is both of these teams very high, Milwaukee being the second highest in the NBA in shooting threes. 42% tendencies, I should say, in shooting threes. I think the Bucks are going to need to take and make the three. When they got a three, they got to shoot it. Kawhi being the best defender on Toronto, I think if he's covering Giannis, who is the one guy on the team that really can't shoot threes. So if Kawhi's not guarding Giannis, I think the Bucks have an open lane to the basket because Giannis is going to take it. So I think Bucks can find a way to win this one. They have a high pace of offense. That might not bode well for Toronto. Kawhi, though, might be able to neutralize that effect as Giannis is the guy who brings it up in the fast break. He's the guy who scores in the fast break. Kawhi maybe on Giannis might neutralize the fast break, but not neutralize the three-point shot.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. A team like the Bucks has a very strong offense. They got guys that can shoot the three as well as guys that can come into the lane and do stuff like efficient layups and dunks and moves like that. If you look at a guy like Malcolm Brogdon, one of their starters, he's a very efficient shooter. In fact, he is an amazing shooter from the free throw line as he leads the league in free throw percentage currently. And he can also play in the inside. You've seen him drive to the basket and get layups and dunks. And obviously, they have a lot of playmakers on the team. You know, guys like Giannis, he can play it, but obviously point guard Eric Bledsoe, Malcolm Brogdon, Chris Middleton can make some plays. Even some of the guys that are on the bench, guys like Thon Maker, he's very efficient. He can shoot, but he's also good at getting to the inside. Getting dunks, posting people up. And I think that's really the thing with the Bucks. They have a very strong offense, but they also have a pretty good defense, especially in the inside. Like I said, guys like Thon Maker, Giannis, and Brook Lopez. They all are very, very efficient as an inside presence on defense. Their defense from beyond the arc isn't the best, but with a team like Toronto, Toronto does take a lot of threes, but they're not the best at making a lot of threes, as they have some guys like Kawhi Leonard and Serge Ibaka and Jonas Valanciunas in their starting lineup. And I think that's going to limit them, and that's where I think the Bucks are going to be able to win this matchup.
Well, we're out of time here this week. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope to see you again.